Good evening, Dean.
Good evening.
Yeah, we can stop with that. These people are supposed to be excited about adoption, not intimidated by.
Well, if they've been with social workers for the last 2 days, they're not going to be excited about it at all.
They've been with me, so they're going to be very excited.
Yeah, but has there been social workers?
Yeah, there's actually loads of us. There's 2 student social workers as well as 2 qualified.
Oh, you poor things.
No. Adele, are you qualified as a social worker? I don't know. Adele's in the room, so
Adele.
Say hello to Adele. Say hello to Adele.
Hello. How are you?
Right, we got some questions for you. I'm going to leap right in so as you can get yourself off to bed for sleepy buys. First, Dean, would you become an advocate for adoption? If so, why?
I don't know how to answer that one because I already am an advocate for adoption.
So I guess the answer is yes, you would. What made you become an advocate for adoption?
Being adopted, it felt right. I love doing cool things like morally right things and all that. That sounds very not what I meant it to sound like. No, it's in I'm a big advocate for winning things and good things in the world. So adoption, I consider that really good, and that's a little bit biased in terms of what my journey and my story. But in general, I think it just is a good thing because it removes children from situations that aren't allowing them to be their best selves, and that is what I'm an advocate for, allowing everyone to have the best chance in life.
Nice.
I think, yeah. So it's that kind of that mentality.
Awesome. Next question, and you can be brutally honest.
I will.
Do you ever feel any resentment towards your adoptive parents? This is like a 3-part question. So, do you ever feel any resentment towards your adoptive parents?
Oh yeah, all the time. They won't let me go on the Xbox. No, I'm assuming it means in terms of because you adopted me or that kind of thing. Or just, I feel the standard level of resentment that you feel sometimes towards your parents because they don't let you have your own way.
Yeah.
But that's normal. But in terms of adoption, not at all.
Okay.
I'm glad they adopted me.
Awesome. So that's very kind, thank you. And the follow-up was, and when or if you do, how do you then deal with those feelings? So
I don't get them.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable to talk to us about any negative feelings towards us or indeed adoption? Do you ever have any negative thoughts about adoption in general?
No, not that I can think of. I think of it as a very positive thing. I know, for some scenarios and stuff, it's not an ideal situation.
Yeah.
Some people their child gets adopted not because they don't want them or they're going to be bad parents, just because they can't afford it, or there's other situations that means they don't have them. So I think that sometimes is a bit negative adoption, but it's still a positive thing overall. I think it's all about giving that kid the best chance in life ultimately. And yes, it's really unfortunate for some people involved in that they lose contact with their children, and also sometimes with the birth families and the foster families. So there's negatives in that. That's something negative I don't like, is the way contact is where it's optional like that. I don't think it should be optional. I think it should be until say they're set an age, where they can decide for themselves, but there should be a mandatory level of contact, I think, because that keeps the door open there, reduces the risk of the kids pulling a runner to try and find their real family as such, as it were. And also if they have questions about their past families, some kids don't get adopted until they're 7, which is really unfortunate and shouldn't happen as much. So, and they might have questions about their lives and their real families and what might have been and all that. And it's important to have that communication open like that, because if not, that's when you then go into the tragic trope of broken adopted kid, because they can't find themselves. And it's as dramatic as it sounds, I can understand why that might be an issue for some people. Yeah. It's just who am I really though? I get obviously I'm adopted by these people. But, certainly for some people, I know 2 men didn't give birth to me, so who am I really?
Yeah, I suppose
and there's things like that.
It's interesting, though, because you've never massively engaged with contact.
No, and that's my choice. It doesn't mean I'm not an advocate for it. It just means that in my scenario, I know who I am, and I know who I don't want to be and don't want to have been. So I don't need the contact really. I keep it open purely for the sake of if I ever needed it, it's there.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So I don't want to cut off all contact, and then, you know, whoever, you know, my birth mum then be like, oh, he's not contacting me, what's the point? And then ignore contact I might need in the future.
Yeah.
You know, I might be like 32 and then have some random question about my past that I really need to know. It's causing me to have like breakdowns or whatever. You know, and I don't want to cut that off because that's just stupid. Everything is a resource. Like, just because it causes a little bit of, you know, pain maybe emotionally, or there's, you know, there's a bit of anger there for me as well. And it's like, okay, but it's a resource, it's knowledge. Knowledge is good, and knowledge about yourself is some of the most powerful knowledge out there, really.
It's a really positive outlook.
Yeah, I actually got that from a book, you know, a little bit. Anyway.
The next question is, what do you think is the best or nicest thing about adoption, in your opinion?
I mean, yeah, it's just about the way it gives, you know, kids a chance to be their best versions of themselves, you know. You, I think you said the other week that if you think I didn't get adopted, that I'd be like a drug overlord. I think you said something like that, like I'd run like a gang or something.
What I actually said, just to apply some context here, is you are remarkably intelligent, and where if you continue to live in your first family, there's a huge question mark over how that intelligence would have been used. You could have used it to break the cycle yourself, but you could have equally fallen in with the wrong crowd and used that intelligence for the wrong reason.
But anyway, you know what I mean? It's that idea that it removes, you know, things like that and allows kids to flourish and develop, you know, like I'm going to one of the top schools in the country, I've got a really bright future, I'm going to university in September. Now, I don't think that any of that would have happened had I not been adopted. It would have been a very different path. And also, obviously, it's good to like stop kids being abused and all that as well. That I think is a big win. Stops the abuse and stops like all of that happening too. But yeah, also just allowing the development of young people. Definitely. I think that's crucial. That's the key to the future. It really is.
Nice. Next question. What's your first memory of being adopted?
I don't know how to answer this.
Because you was that much older?
Yeah, it's like, I remember loads of things from before adoption, during, after, like, you know, I could tell you my first memory of being adopted. It depends what you count as being adopted and not being adopted. Because for me, my first memory of being adopted was when I first met them. Because I kind of just knew right then, yeah, these guys are cool. I'm not going to find people that much cooler. Might as well. But like, well stick with them. If people say, what's your earliest memory of your, you know, being adopted and all that, I'd probably go with that. But obviously, if you're talking about the legal proceedings, I remember being in the courtroom when the paperwork got all sorted, you know, and that was the legal adoption. I remember like moving in day. So yeah, my earliest memory was when I first met them.
Nice. Do you think that your story has shaped you, or do you think your dads have?
My parents have a lot shaped me. They're maybe really dramatic. Thanks for that. No, but yeah, obviously, whose parents don't shape them. But also, my story is part of who I am. You know, it does define me to an extent because, you know, those early years are really just as important as, you know, the later years where you develop. And, you know, part of my sense of identity is being adopted, and I think it's great to make jokes about it sometimes. It's very comedic sometimes, actually. Works out really well in a school full of immature teenage boys who like to make your mum jokes. So
I actually told the group about that this morning. We talked about your gallows humour.
So what's the question again? Just so I can
whether
finalise
you think your story has shaped you, or if you think your dads have.
So much more my parents than anything, but that story is there. It's part of me, and I will tell it gladly to anyone because educating people is the best way to prevent ignorance. Because ignorance leads to not nice people. Absolutely. You know, so yeah, but it's mostly parents.
I talked today with the group about Lisa, Marius,
the gang.
I talked to them about how your timescales were coming to the end, and how Lisa and Marius had said that had that timescale reached its end,
they would have adopted
come
them,
forward to adopt you. at any time have you wished that you could have stayed with Lisa and the gang and been adopted by them?
I never wished in that sense, but I remember when they brought all their kids Segways, and I was like, if I'd been adopted by them, I would have got that too. And I thought that on that day when I found out that happened.
This is after you'd moved in with us.
Yeah, and they all got Segways, and I was like, oh, that could have been me. But I've never wished in that sense, because I'm very happy with the way it is now. Lisa and the gang, they are cool, but there's quite a lot of children in that house, and I'm quite happy to be an only child, let's put it that way. I don't do sharing. I'm glad I'm exactly where I am, because the position I'm in terms of my education, me as a person, I don't think I'd be quite the same person I am today, and I'm really happy with the person I've become today. So, although I might be a bit stronger, because having teenage brothers who are older than you and that would pick on me, I would have had to toughen up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I would have become a brat and relied on being, the favourite younger child.
But you wouldn't have been, because Jude is there now.
Yeah, but would they have had Jude? You don't know, because
we can get into that for a long old time.
You don't know though. That's the thing, because they might have said, "Oh, we've got 3 now. That's why continue."
Maybe
they've not had another one since Jude. So how do you know they didn't just want 3?
Yeah, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe.
But anyway, yeah, so it's that I've never wished it. I've thought about what might have been, but I've thought about what might have been had I not been adopted at all. Just because I think it's quite funny to try and confuse my brain by having existential crises like that.
What do you think might have been the outcome had you have not moved out of maybe Kylie's home?
So had I not moved out, I imagine that the home situation wouldn't have improved from what it was. So I would have grown up, probably a little bit sad, moody, like one of those like classic tough guy tropes you see in high schools and stuff. Like, or if I did go to school, I'd be the kid who sits at the back, doesn't do any work, and picks on people, and so I'd be very angry, I think, like all the time. And I think I would have turned to crime, to be honest, because, the area, the situation, I wouldn't have had much else, so I would have turned, and possibly even drugs to try and, get high, get happy, that kind of thing. So I think that's the way that would have gone in terms of that, and I'd probably have ended up with a record by now. So that's where I've gone. And then if I hadn't been adopted by you guys and been adopted by Lisa, I think I wouldn't be that much of a different person, like in terms of my morals and like my moral compass. I think it's quite good. Yeah, I'd imagine, and I've been from quite young. I think that's been like that, and I think that's because I know just how bad things can be. So I know just what good should be as well. So like I think as a person, I would have developed quite similarly in my attitudes, my beliefs. Like. I believe in equality for all and all that. Like, I don't care what you've got going on. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. If you're not nice, I'm not going to be nice. Like, And the person I am, I think I'm a pleasant character to be around. I get told that a lot. My yearbook quotes, 2 of the 3 of them were how I'm a nice person, easy to get along with, easy to talk to. The other one, my friend called me a stinky monkey. But I think I still would have been enough to uni and stuff, because Jaylan did. Don't know what Ruben's doing.
Ruben did.
Don't know what he's doing there though. Sports
science, like physiotherapy.
So I think I would have ended up probably going into a similar field, because I like science.
Yeah.
When I studied at my school, and so I'm sure I probably would have liked science wherever I went before. So I reckon I'd be on a similar path. Maybe a different uni and stuff, but probably a similar course, I reckon, as well. Like, I don't think that would have changed too much. It's just obviously this wouldn't be happening. This is what I mean. I like to think about these things because it's too much for the brain to handle, and it's like cool to think about. But what might have been. Yeah.
So another question that Dad and I get asked a lot is, would you do it all over again? So would you adopt for a second time? Very rare that you get asked that question.
What, if I'd want you guys to adopt, or if I would adopt?
No, if you'd want us to adopt again.
When I was younger, I always wanted, like, a brother to pick on. And, like, That kind
How's
of
that
thing.
moral compass, Dean?
No, because that's not immoral. But like, I saw this post on Instagram that I was like, I totally would have done something like that. Where like the mum had given her oldest of the 2 children like £5 or whatever to clean the room, and then the older sibling paid the younger brother like £2 of it or something to do it instead, and then kept 3 for himself. And it's like things like that. I would have been like that. I would have though, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I would have totally conned you all the time. So yeah, sometimes I thought it'd be cool to have a sibling, but as I've grown older, I'm appreciative of being an only child, because siblings is stressful. I think I have had siblings. You know, I've lived in a house with siblings. I know friends who have siblings, and it just sounds like a lot of hassle. Like, I don't want to have to wait for things. I don't want to have to share and all this, that, and the other. Like, ugh. I barely get a seat on the sofa as it is between you guys and the dog. Like, I don't know, a sibling to contend with.
That's because the princess is the highest ranking, and that's the dog, not Stuart.
It's definitely Stuart. So yeah, sometimes I think just for the sake of wanting a sibling, because I think every only child has experienced that at some point.
Yeah.
But overall, no, I don't want them to, because that's a lot of hassle, that's a lot of money. And then it means I got to spend more money on this kid as well, so that means I get less nice stuff.
Yeah, spoken like a true only child.
Shut
Marvellous. Any other thoughts, theories, questions, musings that you'd like to
So
share?
obviously, as usual, and I deliver this on every video pretty much, adoption isn't all doom and gloom. Social workers, no offence, I don't know any of you, like I know the other ones at Essex, where you do it normally.
No, this is in Essex.
So,
I'm with...
apart from Shona, this doesn't apply to you.
Shona's not in the room. This is Amy.
I don't know who these people are. But social workers make it out to be quite doomy, quite gloomy. Even you do to an extent in your training. Oh, they lose this connection and that connection. You know, that string cutting exercise must be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So it is good. It's not as bad as it seems. You know, all parenting has ups and downs. They just like to highlight the downs in adoption because they're different from what you might normally expect. But there is ups. You get quirky, cool children who like are immune to parent jokes, and you sometimes drop some absolute really funny bombshell jokes on conversations. So yeah, you know, there's good, and also as well, think of all the good it will do the kid you adopt to give them the best chance that they have of developing and having a really nice future. And maybe one day they'll be sat where I am now, you know, delivering a video like this because you chose to adopt them and you were like, that was cool. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Awesome.
And also, if you do go through with it, don't sweat it. You know, like, we're evolved to be parents from when the child is given birth to. You've skipped some of that steps. Actually, you skipped quite a lot of it. So you can definitely do it. If you adopt like a 7-year-old, like my parents did, like, that's a wedding. You're all over it. They basically take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Piece of cake, mate.
no, but yeah, don't stress out too much. It's going to be tough sometimes. I'm sure you told them about the 10-hour day.
I actually haven't yet.
Oh, the 10-hour day, we had an argument for 10 hours about nothing in particular. What was it?
It was basically just the end of the honeymoon period.
Oh, I was just angry.
Yeah.
That'll happen. You get used to it.
Yeah.
It comes back in teenage years. So yeah, just don't sweat it. Don't panic. Don't stress. It's parenting. We're built for this. It's what we're evolved to do.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Cool.
And, you know, adopt. If I don't see all of you adopting, I will be very upset.
Marvellous.
Public shame.
Say goodbye.
Bye.